TV, our annual Oktoberfest preview, the entire month of TV shows. We did champions last week from different tracks around the state. This week, we're going to talk nothing but Oktoberfest, a huge event coming up Sunday of Oktoberfest again, I think, for the 8th year. And one of the men, Greg Oliver, is a history buff when it comes to lacrosse speedway. We've talked about that before, but another guy that's right there at that same level has come in, brought some fantastic video in the past. I think that was one of the highest rated shows we had about 4 or 5 years ago, is when Dale Danielski from Starmaker Multimedia came in and showed us video that a lot of people still to this day have no clue where you found, but they keep going back to the YouTube page and watching that show. Dale, it's good to have you back in again.
Well, it's good to be here.
This guy is just history written all over the place, and he's one of the makers, creators, I should say, of a big Champions Reading Tour that comes to the Lacrosse Speedway and Sunday Fest. He's only missed maybe 10 fests of the 46 years, coming up on 47 years that we have this year, and knows the champions, mingles with the champions, and has a lot of history when it comes to Oktoberfest. So we're going to spend the show, like we did about 3 or 4 years ago, talking with Dale. And first and foremost, Champions Reunion 5, 6, 7, 8, that says right there, coming back again this year.
Yeah, it's by request. Chuck Deary started this. You know, this will be our 8th year, and I had done some before that, and it's just really. It's really blossomed, actually, and it's kind of a reward thing for these guys that have really done their time. You know, they've raced for years, and as we know, racing doesn't make you a ton of money, but you know, they did their part and made it exciting. And this is kind of a reward now that we do as part of Fest to you know, and honor those guys to some extent.
Champions Reunion will be one of the events for the 47th annual Oktoberfest this year. It's going to be Sunday, as it was last year. And the name slips me, the gentleman that had the car there last year. It was like the Daytona record breaker for speed or something like that, and he fired it up and just thrilled everybody. And that's just an example of what people are getting used to seeing.
Yes, I always try to have kind of a, let's just say, more significant person that was involved in racing be there as part of this show, and that actually was Ernie Tuff,
Ernie Tuff, that's right.
Yeah, just a guy out of Rushford, Minnesota, small town, and did some really significant things down at Daytona, setting records with the car, and actually that was the car that was on display. We got it on the track, and it's those types of things that we do. And we will have a number of actually restored race cars that'll be there, and one of them is actually going to be the car that a pretty popular racer back in the 70s and 80s, Mike Miller. Actually, he was here last year as part of the show, but this year, the guy didn't quite get it done, but this year he's actually going to have a car he drove in 1981. It's restored, and so we'll have that there. That'll be kind of a special treat, I think.
You know, one of the cars that I'm sure you got familiar with last year that some race fans we introduced at the Lacrosse Speedway during Fest last year was Charlie Schwach. And Charlie bought an old Mark Martin NASCAR race car, and it's pretty much intact of how it was back in the day. And I'm sure that you and Charlie have had some conversations, especially seeing him run the vintage series last year.
Oh, absolutely. Actually, Charlie and I go way back. I mean, he raced back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and he, you know, the racing thing, it never leaves you totally.
Right.
You can walk away from it, but it chases you. And Charlie's one of those guys that he doesn't really race anymore, but he did pick up some cars, and yeah, that's one of them that he continues actually in the vintage series to this day to race that car. So, yeah, I'm sure he'll be there, you know, again this year too. So.
Now, when we talk about the Champions Reunion, what that is this past track champions. And I remember one of the first years I've been at Fest, this will be my 10th year, so you would have started this just a couple years later. And it took me a couple years to really understand what does that mean. I thought it was Lacrosse Speedway past champions. Lacrosse Speedway is just one of these small race tracks of champions that are invited to attend this big Sunday event.
That's correct. Actually, anybody that's a champion anywhere, any series, any track, any division that hasn't raced in the last 3 years is welcome to attend this event. We open it up to the dirt guys. Heck, I don't care if you raced on a road course or, well, as an example, Steve Scholze. He's a guy that's never raced in a top division, but he was the 00 champion, which of course that's a novelty event at the Fest and other times during the year. But he's a champion of that, and he's won at Fest. He's one of those guys that's eligible. And I don't discourage anybody. I mean, those guys were all part of racing, and without them, you wouldn't have had it. So absolutely, it's open to, in Wisconsin. I mean, we get Minnesota guys, Illinois, all over, Michigan. So absolutely, that's what we want. The more we get, the more fun we have.
And it's interesting that you bring up the name of Steve Schulze, because then I also bring up Billy Miller. Those guys ran when the Thomas Sparta Raceway was running every single weekend. And it's the stories those guys have. I think the first thing out of Billy Miller's mouth every time is, man, I used to run with Trickle. And the Trickle stories start coming about. But it just shows how much history that racetrack had. Black River Falls is closed. Arcadia is closed. The only tracks we have left open in this area now are West Salem, Mississippi Thunder Speedway in Found City, and in Thomas Sparta. And it's just one of those niches of having this kind of a tour where fans can just sit back and listen to story after story from local guys like Schulze and Miller.
And that's exactly what happens. I mean, you go there and somebody opens the door and all of a sudden you've got just this conglomeration of people talking about all these things. Some of it's true.
Yeah.
So anyway, and that's the fun of this. It's a pretty casual deal, really. We just get them together and they can reminisce and, they can say whatever they want, It's just, and it's a lot of fun to be a part of that.
This is going to be coming up Oktoberfest Race Weekend. It's usually held on Sunday. We encourage everybody to come up. They kind of open a little bit earlier than the fan autograph session on the track, so you have a chance to go up there and mingle around. Then you've got the fan autograph session, then the races before the big Oktoberfest race, and it's open throughout the entire afternoon. I mean, there's a huge conglomeration of people that are up there. In segment number 2, Dale Danielski is going to be staying with us, and we're going to talk about some of the champions they've had there in the past. Last year had to have been close to 50. Every time I looked down to the tower, that whole turn 1 area by the Big Red Party Barn was completely full of people. I had a chance to wander down there myself and talk to some of them. We're going to do some name dropping of the past champions that have been up there. Maybe if there's anything new to learn about the champions reunion coming up Sunday at Fest this year, we'll let you more about that next on 7 Rivers Racing.
Whatever your perfect temperature, you'll enjoy consistent comfort with the heating and air conditioning systems homeowners rank #1. American Standard Heating and Air Conditioning.
Carey Heating and Air Conditioning, your residential specialists, providing Coulee Region families with perfect indoor weather all year long. Call for your free estimate today. The next time you visit the west coast of Wisconsin, there's a hotel in La Crosse you need to check into. Here's General Manager Roxanne North.
We want to treat every guest with the best that we have to offer, and that starts with the front desk all the way through the housekeeping department. My general philosophy in life is I treat my staff the way I want to be treated, and I pass that on that we treat our guests that way.
For reservations, visit the website, settlein.com.
People come here, we want them to feel like family.
Have you tried the great lunch buffet at Pizza Hut? Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 1:30, Pizza Hut in La Crosse and Winona offers you an all-you-can-eat lunch buffet for just $5.99. All the salad, pasta, breadsticks, and of course, delicious piping hot pizza you can eat. How about dinner? Try the Triple Treat Box from Pizza Hut. 2 medium, 1-topping pizzas, an order of breadsticks, and a Hershey's chocolate chip cookie, just $19.99. Pizza Hut in La Crosse and Winona. Call for delivery or order online. Pizza Hut.
Short track racing is alive and well in Wisconsin and Minnesota. Hi, this is Dan Dyker, The Voice. Join me and Billy Doc Niles each week at noon on Kugel 1460 for Wisconsin's most comprehensive racing report. We'll talk with local and national drivers and bring you up to date on what's going on in western Wisconsin's finest short tracks. If you love racing, you'll love our show. The Whitetail Crossing Convenience Store Race Report, Saturdays at noon on Kugel 1460 WBOG.
Welcome back, 7 Rivers Racing, KQEG TV. Multimedia. I'm Dan Dykert, along with Starmaker Multimedia's Dale Danielski, one of the biggest history track racing buffs you're going to find in this area. Talking about the Champions Reunion coming up on Sunday of Oktoberfest this year. It gets started way before a lot of the other racing activities do, so you have a lot of time to come out of the campground and venture over and meet some of the stars of the past. Of course, they're still labeled as stars. The Tom Ruffners, the Marv Marzofkas, the Mike Millers, those are always guys that are expected to be there. Last year, I noticed you had over 50 championship-winning drivers. That had to have been almost a record for the 7th annual event you had.
That was our largest turnout. And, with the way it looks this year, the response I'm getting, I expect to have more, actually. So, yeah, we were really pleased with that. And like you mentioned, the Tom Ruffners, he's a fest winner a couple times. Marv Marzofka, he's won Oktoberfest. Yeah, those guys will be there. Actually, somebody that has been there, but I think he's kind of been hiding a little bit, is Tom Carlson. And people don't realize that Tom had a heck of a career, actually, too. And they don't realize because Steve has continued to race, and he kind of overshadows it. But,
right.
But Tom actually, he's won the Fest a couple years, and ran well in Artco, won races with that. So Tom's going to be there this year. So that he's kind of what I would consider a special guest, coming this year.
I think Tom is one that we have not had on the radio show yet. We're going to have to try to fandangle that this year. Dale was the guy that originally started. Matter of fact, this is the 6th year of the radio show on WBOG. The first year that we did it live at Oktoberfest that Saturday, Dale had us, we had Ruffner and Marzofka, we had Bach, the grandfather, we had a couple of other guys. And then about 5 minutes, Dale had Dick Trickle lined up, and about 5 minutes to the show is done, Dick finally comes into the VIP area of the tower, and of course Dick was there, so we ran over like 15 minutes, but that was the year that Dick tried getting his golf cart up the backside of the quarter mile and found out it was too much of a ramp and almost rolled his golf cart, but he still made it.
He did, and isn't that typical vintage Trickle, because Dick was notorious. Whatever event he was going to, he would be the last one there. I mean, that's the way he did it, and who's to say that wasn't a good formula.
Right.
Obviously, he won a ton of races, and he'd come in last and set a record and, go on later on probably to win the feature event that night, whatever track it was, and why would we have thought it would be any different on this day? He shows up late. Last.
You kept telling me during the radio, like, he'll be here. And I kept looking at my watch. I'm like, I've got 10 minutes to fill here. And all of a sudden, there comes the door swinging open, and he just, right in the middle of doing the radio interview with whoever we were talking to, grabs the microphone and explains to our audience of what had just happened on the golf cart. And it was one of the funniest shows we've done at Oktoberfest. What is it about the reunion that just jazzes you? I mean, what is it, now that this is year number 8, that you've been hosting this and putting this together, what is it that you can sit back and just feel accomplished about this event?
I think the fact that I was there, for the most part. I mean, we do get guys even as far back as in the 50s that attend, but I think the fact that I really got involved with it in the 60s, 70s, and, to today, really, and the fact that I was there to appreciate it and just be able to relate that to the public today, because the sport has changed. There's no denying that. I'm not saying better or worse, but it was such a unique time, and the fact that we can bring these guys together and literally relive that time to some extent, I think that's what I appreciate most. I get just a thrill out of that.
Again, the event has been posted on Facebook. Just look up Champions Reunion or Lacrosse Speedway or Oktoberfest, because you'll be automatically able to find it several different ways. And I thought it was interesting. A couple days ago, I've seen some names pop up. Hey, I was the 74-75 Golden Speedway champ. I saw another one today. I came in with the track had never been to the reunion before, and also was invited to the event via Facebook and said, hey, I was so-and-so of a track champ. Are you finding that social media is really helping to drive this event?
It appears that, and again, when you're talking people from the 60s, 70s, you're not going to get a big amount of people you wouldn't think, that would be tuned into kind of our new technologies and,
sure.
and the way we communicate. But I think more and more are. I think the Facebook thing specifically is really, I guess you know if you're going to live today, you might as well be a part of today, and that is, as far as communication, the way it is. So yeah, we've gotten a really good response, really from some people that, maybe I wouldn't have thought would do that. And like you say, this Vic Getzloff, he's one of them that responded that way. And he was the crew chief for Dick Trickle for many, many years. Drove the race car hauler. And he's going to come this year. And as a matter of fact, he is a champion at the Golden Sands Speedway. So it's not just the Trickle thing. He actually did win a couple of championships at that track.
Even though I could bet during the Champions reunion, you're going to have to put him in his own corner because people are going to want to hear Trickle's story. I bet you out of 9 out of 10 questions are going to be about Trickle, and then that one question, oh, you're a track champion, by the way. So let's get back to Trickle.
Yeah, and that's about how it'll go. I'll probably be the one that'll bring that up and say, hey, Vic, you did win championships. Let's talk about that. Yeah, I know. That's not all it'll go, probably, too.
This is from 11 until 2, Oktoberfest Sunday. It's up in the Big Red Barn, the Chalet, the Hospitality Chalet, located in turn number 1. A lot of different things people can expect. I know last year I saw some memorabilia come out. A couple of folks, old drivers, champions, have brought out some newspaper clippings from the 60s. They had the Packers. It was funny. Somebody had brought up a newspaper last year, and when they held the newspaper up, they had the winning headline from the race, and the Packers win took the sidebar. I mean, it was just that big back then, but he still had the newspaper.
Yeah, and we do encourage that. I mean, we'll get some of the drivers that'll bring scrapbooks and various things. I myself normally have videos that I show, like we were talking, some of that stuff I've dug up. We'll show some of that. I have these boards that I have newspaper clippings of pretty much from when the sport really got going in the 50s all the way up to at least into the 2000s. We'll have clippings of various guys who won and all that. So and people can bring stuff too if they want. I mean, it is free if you have a ticket. For Sunday's racing, it's free for the fans. I mean, and again, you can get autographs from some of these guys if you want. Get a picture with some of them. But absolutely, the memorabilia part of it is significant too.
What does it cost past champions if they want to be a part of this?
Absolutely nothing. Basically, they need to let me know of their intentions to attend, and I'll get them on a list at the main grandstand area, and they're free to come in and basically spend, it says 3 hours, but it's spend the day, watch the races, and do all the great discussion. So, that's all it takes. Just they have to get a hold of me, and we'll get them lined up for it.
Well, you can find Dale Danielski at Starmaker Multimedia, located in Alaska. Definitely look him up on Facebook or find the Facebook event. That has been the biggest thing. I'm seeing people share it left and right at least 6-7 times a day since he posted about a month ago. Each one of those shares generates, according to Facebook, 200 likes or looks. So right now it's going to be about 2,000 or 3,000 looks. And then like the event yourself and then share the event. We would like to see a huge conglomeration of people up there again. Again, they had 50 champions there last year, and with what I've seen so far, thanks to social media, you'd expect a lot more than that. And bring some Sharpies. They're never afraid to sign autographs. There was a line last year for several drivers. You never know who's going to show up. Just because they don't get a hold of Dale doesn't mean that they haven't called him and said, hey, don't tell anybody I'm going to be there, but they're going to be showing up and they're going to be there for the Champions reunion. That's, again, 11 to 2, the Big Red Barn at the La Crosse Speedway, located in turn 1. When we come back, the ultimate question for Dale Danielski. He's missed 10 out of 47 years. Why is Oktoberfest continuing so popular? That's going to be coming up next on 7 Rivers Racing.
Short track racing is alive and well in Wisconsin and Minnesota. Hi, this is Dan Diker, The Voice. Join me and Billy Doc Niles each week at noon on Google 1460 for Wisconsin's most comprehensive racing report. We'll talk with local and national drivers and bring you up to date on what's going on in western Wisconsin's finest short tracks. If you love racing, you'll love our show. The Whitetail Crossing Convenience Store Race Report, Saturdays at noon on Google 1460 WBOG.
Have you tried the great lunch buffet at Pizza Hut? Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 1:30, Pizza Hut in La Crosse and Winona offers you an all-you-can-eat lunch buffet for just $5.99. All the salad, pasta, breadsticks, and of course, delicious piping hot pizza you can eat. How about dinner? Try the Triple Treat Box from Pizza Hut. 2 medium, 1-topping pizzas, an order of breadsticks, and a Hershey's chocolate chip cookie, just $19.99. Pizza Hut in La Crosse and Winona. Call for delivery or order online. Pizza Hut. The next time you visit the west coast of Wisconsin, there's a hotel in La Crosse you need to check into. Here's General Manager Roxanne North.
We want to treat every guest with the best that we have to offer, and that starts with the front desk all the way through the housekeeping department. My general philosophy in life is I treat my staff the way I want to be treated, and I pass that on that we treat our guests that way.
For reservations, visit the website, settlein.com.
People come here, we want them to feel like family.
Whatever your perfect temperature, you'll enjoy consistent comfort with the heating and air conditioning systems homeowners rank #1. American Standard Heating and Air Conditioning.
Carey Heating and Air Conditioning, your residential specialists, providing Coulee Region families with perfect indoor weather all year long. Call for your free estimate today.
Welcome back one more time. 7 Rivers Racing, KQEG TV. I'm Dan Dyker. With me, Starmaker Multimedia's Dale Danielski, one of the biggest history buffs when it comes to racing in this entire area. He's also the coordinator. He's going to wear about 5 or 6 hats when it comes to the Champions Reunion coming up 11-2 Sunday of Oktoberfest this year, with a lot of past champions from many different racetracks and some good names and maybe some names you're not going to recognize, maybe some surprises. You'll just have to show up. Dale, you've been around obviously much longer than I have when it comes to Oktoberfest. This will be my 10th. You've missed approximately 10 in 47 years. What is it that keeps making people want to come back as a fan and a driver to Oktoberfest?
I think if you go back, and this event actually started in 1970, which was the first year that track was paved. Larry Lears actually started this. He was in ownership of the track, with at least through the fairgrounds, and they decided, because there was an event earlier on in September, a very prestigious event, but there really wasn't a Wisconsin season-ending event. And
Which
they tried
is surprising,
this.
with racing being as big as it's always been in Wisconsin.
Yeah, and it is, and yet there really wasn't that, let's just finish off the year type event. And and when you schedule something like that, you don't know if it's going to become that. You have an idea. You think, well, nobody else is racing. We can get all these cars together and let's do this thing. And that's what they did. And it just kept growing and growing and growing and growing. And racing changes, rules change, different cars, different people involved, and this event was so established and became such a tradition that to this day, that's the event you have to go to. And I think that's why you see a lot of these guys that, like a Johnny Sauter in recent years, like a Mark Martin, like a Rusty Wallace, all those guys, at the very least have raced at that track, and most in this season-ending event. So you're always getting that, I think, that star power because it's so established. They're really, when you look even nationwide, there really are not, at the short track level, events of that magnitude. And it's just had staying power.
93, of course, everybody knows Matt Kenseth won that one. Rich Bickle has came out and has capitalized at Oktoberfest as well. And if you look at some of the names on here, the most interesting thing, when I made my trivia question for my WBOG Oktoberfest tickets, and just go to my Facebook page, look at the Whitetail Crossing Community Stores Race Report. The trivia question this year was who won the 1974 Oktoberfest race, and what 2 races did he had to win to be crowned the Oktoberfest champion? Now, if you're watching the show, you didn't catch it on Facebook, go ahead and submit your answer to RadioManDanny@yahoo.com. And that's really all I want to say about that. But it was a one-time deal for this guy that won the race that never came back again. You have so many different names on here that just John Ziegler wins in 85. Matt Kenseth, everybody knows who he is, but he only raced once. I thought it was interesting how many different names have won Oktoberfest but never came back to either win it again or never got a repeat championship.
Yeah, and again, I think it's the season ending. It's kind of the culmination of a season's worth of racing wherever they're from. And And I do know who that. I don't want to let the cat out of the bag, but you bring up 1974. I remember that. Anyway, but it's an international event. These guys. It's again, racing in their area is pretty much done. And even back then, 70s, 80s, the prestige was there. And for years and years, it was a 200-lap event. Mm-hmm. So that was a big departure from the 30, 50-lap, 100-lap races they would run.
Right.
And so I think it was a challenge for a lot of these guys, too. And I think that was part of the reason that, if you were lucky enough to conquer it, you were pretty satisfied. Whereas, maybe that's just not something you're going to do every year because, hey, I did it, I won, and I think that's probably why you didn't see, some of those types of guys returning.
What would you say over the past 2 or 3 years? I mean, the Travis Sauters, he's still a relatively young driver when you look at the ages of some of the drivers that have been competing in this for many years. The Ty Majeski's, the Nathan Haslais. I mean, these guys are all well under 30 years old, been racing maybe 5 or 6 years at the super late model ranks. Knowing that, what are some of the biggest changes that you have seen that have evolved into what Oktoberfest is today?
Well, I think if you look at just from a participant standpoint, of course, the race cars have evolved. I mean, we do have a lot of technology that's created some really, really good things, but I think also, maybe in the process created some shortcomings as far as, who can participate, who can't. Although with that, we've also gone into a lot more different divisions of racing. And again, that's another thing I think that keeps this race among the tops, especially at the short track level. You've got so many different types of race cars.
Yeah.
So really, if you want to race, there's an event there for you, and that's a big positive as far as I'm concerned with that whole event. And I mean, you look at some of those guys you just named. I mean, racers are racers. We've had good racers from the 50s all the way on up.
Right.
I mean, it really racing is kind of the same that way. There's good drivers. There's just guys out there having fun and everything in between. So it's just all part of that.
I think that's one of the reasons I like the sportsman events. We have 2 different sportsman events, Thursday and Friday. I mean, the local guys, lacrosse area, which Minnesota drivers have been invading all year long, get a chance to run against some of the big names from 2 or 3 different states, from Rockford or running from Elko. They never get a chance to. That is their super late model. That is their Oktoberfest niche. We've got so many different crowns, not only points-wise that we will be crowning, but also regular Oktoberfest champions that'll be crowned in those different divisions. One of these years I'm going to have you come in, and I'm going to take all my winners right here of Oktoberfest, and I'm going to say, okay, who won the 1994 Oktoberfest?
And I'll beg that I'm too old now and I can't remember. There's too many years bumping together. But I can probably remember more back in the 70s than I can in the 90s.
94, Joe Shear won his 3rd title. Yeah. 3 out of 4, matter of fact, that was. You and Greg Oliver, I'd love to have both you guys in here. Just start throwing trivia your way. Once again, the program's running short. I could always have this guy on for an hour because I like the knowledge and the staying power that he has had at the Lacrosse Speedway and in racing in general in Western Wisconsin for so many years. Champions reunion one more time. Give us the skinny on when, where, why, and how.
Well, it'll be October 9th. That's Sunday, the last day of the big Oktoberfest racing weekend, 11 until 2 o'clock. And again, fans are welcome. As long as you have a Sunday ticket, it's free admission. Get a picture, get an autograph, just talk with the guys. And again, for the racer, let me know if you want to come. I mean, we're pretty liberal on as far as, the championships and whatnot, as we mentioned earlier. And so you're more than welcome, but let me know ahead of time so I can get you in on some of the beverage and the food and all the goodies.
I like that part there, the beverage and the food. But it's the camaraderie. And in one of these years, if I could just freeze time and announce the races maybe 2 hours later, I would love to just sit there in turn one and hear the stories, like some of the stories. I spent about an hour up there last year. Some of the stories these champions have had, guys from the 70s talking about, well, man, I wish we had computerized this back in the day. And, you know, back in the day, it was the day and age of the carburetor. And now it's just gotten so much bigger, as we talked about. Again, that's going to be coming up Sunday, October 9th, 11 to 2 at the Big Red Barn, located in Turn 1 at La Crosse Speedway. Look Dale up on Facebook, the Champions Reunion number 8. That's what you want to find on Facebook. Share it, save the event, and let your friends know about it. It's a great time if you want to meet some of the best champs. And even if it was a one-time track champion, it was a track champ, you want to go up there and meet these ladies and gentlemen and sit back and see what they bring with them and listen to the stories. Dale Danielski with Starmaker Multimedia. I get him in this time of the year because once Fest starts, no way. I saw him maybe 4 times at the races this year at La Crosse. That whole weekend, that guy is all over the place. So we'd like to thank Dale for coming in. Starmaker Multimedia and Champions Reunion number 8. That's all the time we have. More Oktoberfest coming up next weekend. Until then, support your local short tracks. I'm Dan Dyker. This is 7 Rivers Radio.